Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, welcome to a world where filters replace faces, where lies wear lipstick, and where people sell their souls for a few likes and followers. Let's be honest, fake is everywhere. Fake love, fake friendships, fake smiles, fake lives curated for Instagram highlights, while reality is breaking down behind closed doors. But real is rare. And because it's rare, it's priceless. And because it's priceless, it's feared. Everyone loves the mask until you remove it. We live in a world where pretending has become a survival skill. People wear smiles like makeup, pose happiness like a trend, and speak words dipped in sugar just to keep peace with people who don't even like them. The truth is, as long as you're wearing a mask that pleases them, they'll clap for you. But the moment you remove it and show them your unfiltered truth, they panic, they distance themselves, they label you too much, too loud, or too real. Think about it. You go to work every day and everyone is all smiles at the morning meetings. But the moment someone speaks truthfully, hey, this deadline is unreasonable, or we need to talk about the toxic atmosphere, they're suddenly called difficult, negative, or not a team player. Why? Because the mask came off. And that scares people who are committed to living behind theirs. In friendships, the same thing happens. You've laughed with people, shared memes, gone to parties, you played your part in their world. But the one day you needed to cry, the one day you were vulnerable and needed support, that's the day they got too busy. They loved the version of you that was entertaining, not the version that was real. The moment your mask slipped and your truth came forward, you were no longer convenient, and they left. In relationships, this gets even deeper. At first, they love the image you project, the confident, cool, always okay version of you. But the day you show insecurity, the day you say, I need you, the day you say, I'm scared, they ghost. Because they weren't in love with you, they were in love with the illusion of you. That mask, the one you wore to impress, to protect, to survive, was the version they adored. But when the real you showed up, needing depth, needing truth, they vanished. But hear this truth loud and clear. Your truth is not a liability. It's your liberation. You weren't born to be a mannequin in someone else's fantasy. You were born to live and breathe and feel and be bold with your emotions. And if that makes others uncomfortable, let them be uncomfortable. You don't owe anyone a watered-down version of your soul just to be accepted. Even in families, this is real. How many of us were told to keep it quiet, don't cause drama, don't talk back, when all we were doing was expressing our feelings? You had to be the good girl, the good boy, and play your role. But the moment you spoke up, challenged authority, or simply asked for understanding, you became the rebel, the problem, the black sheep. But here's the thing. The black sheep is usually just the one who sees clearly in a world full of blind followers. We're trained to wear masks at school, at home, at work, online. But wearing a mask too long makes you forget your own face. And the longer you pretend, the harder it is to come back to yourself. You might lose people when you take the mask off, but what you'll gain is yourself. And trust me, That's the most powerful relationship you'll ever have. Because once you fall in love with your real self, the one who cries, the one who fails, the one who speaks up, the one who loves hard, you become unshakable. You won't beg to be chosen, you won't apologize for your depth, and you sure as hell won't wear a mask to fit into places that were never meant for your truth. People love the mask because it keeps them safe. Greatness came from honesty, from the raw, from the real. And if they can't handle your truth, let them leave. Your authenticity is not up for negotiation. Look around at the people who have done something extraordinary. Artists, leaders, trailblazers, visionaries. They were misunderstood, even mocked in the beginning. Why? Because they weren't for everyone. Their frequency was too high, their mind too deep, their presence too powerful. And instead of lowering themselves to fit into small spaces, they expanded. They claimed their difference, like a crown. Take relationships, for example. You've dated people who liked the idea of you until they realized you had boundaries, until they realized you couldn't be controlled, until they realized you weren't going to tolerate emotional games. And suddenly, you were too much, too opinionated, too ambitious, too intense. But were you really too much? Or were they simply not enough to handle someone who actually knew her worth? Even in friendships, how many times have you had to dim your joy, mute your achievements, or pretend to? Be smaller just so others wouldn't feel insecure. You learned to silence your wins so others could feel comfortable in their losses. You became the emotional caretaker, always lifting everyone else, but never being held. But here's the shift. You're allowed to outgrow people. You're allowed to evolve past places where your presence is tolerated, not celebrated. At work, you may have been the one who speaks up when everyone stays silent. You may ask questions no one dares to ask. You challenge norms, break cycles, dream bigger. And while that might not make you everyone's favorite, it makes you unforgettable. And remember, people forget the ones who follow, but they remember the ones who lead. You are not here to decorate other people's insecurities. You are here to stand in your truth. Even if that truth is too bold, too fierce, too real for some, the sooner you accept that not everyone will understand you, the faster you can stop wasting your energy trying to convince them. You weren't born to be liked, you were born to be legendary. You are not pizza. You're not supposed to be everyone's favorite. You are the fire, the storm, the calm, and the chaos, all in one. And some people will run from your power simply because they've never met someone who owns it unapologetically. So when someone says, "You've changed," smile. That's proof you're growing. When they say, "You're not the same," say, "Thank you." That means you're not stuck. And when they say, "I liked the old you," remind them that version was performing for their comfort. This one is free. Realness will cost you, but fakeness will destroy you. Being real isn't free. It demands courage. It requires you to walk away from what's convenient and speak the truth even when your voice shakes. It will cost you friendships that were never built on depth. It will cost you relationships that relied on your silence. It will cost you acceptance in rooms where masks are mandatory. But no matter the price, remember this. Fakeness might keep you liked for a while, but it will rob your soul in silence. Imagine this. You're at a family dinner, and someone makes a comment that's completely out of line. Maybe it's sexist, maybe it's about someone else's appearance, maybe it's just dripping with judgment. You know it's wrong, everyone knows it's wrong, but no one speaks. And when you do, suddenly you're the problem. You're too sensitive, you're creating drama. But in that moment, you stood in your realness. You didn't lie to yourself, stay quiet just to be polite. You paid a price, but you kept your self-respect. Or think about your job. You watch your co-workers play office politics, kiss up to the boss, nod along with ideas they don't even believe in. Meanwhile, you speak with integrity. You admit mistakes, own your limits, ask the real questions in meetings. And because of that, you might not climb as fast as the others. You may not be the favorite, but at the end of the day, when you lay your head on your pillow, you don't need a mask to sleep. Fakeness would have gotten you applause. Realness gave you peace. In friendships, it's the same dance. You could pretend, laugh at jokes that aren't funny, agree with gossip to avoid tension, stay silent when something hurts you. But that silence, it adds up. Every time you fake a smile, a piece of you disappears. Until one day, you don't even recognize the person looking back in the mirror. You weren't born to be a chameleon. You were born to be a force. And a force doesn't shape-shift to fit into shallow waters. It creates waves. And let's talk about love. Real love is messy. It's raw. It's flawed. But fakeness in love, that's the killer. Posting perfect pictures while crying behind closed doors. Saying I'm fine when your heart is screaming. Pretending you're okay just to keep someone from leaving. That kind of fakeness destroys from the inside out. Because every time you silence your truth, every time you fake your feelings, you abandon yourself. And no relationship is worth losing your identity over. Even on social media, how easy it is to filter our lives, our faces, our emotions. Smiles with captions that hide the ache. Bodies edited into perfection while our confidence dies unedited. We build fake images just to win real value. But here's the brutal truth. They might love the image, but they don't even know the person. And being loved for who you're not is the loneliest feeling in the world. Realness will cost you popularity, but fakeness will cost you your soul. And what's the point of being liked by everyone if you don't even like yourself? The truth is, most people don't want real. They want easy. Realness is uncomfortable. It challenges, it questions, it disrupts. But that's exactly why it matters. Because the people who stay after seeing your truth, those are your tribe. And the peace that comes from living aligned with who you really are, that's priceless. So yes, being real will cost you people, comfort, and control. But being fake will cost you everything that ever mattered. Your voice, your power, your magic. And that's too high a price to pay for temporary applause. You don't compete when you're complete. Let that sink in. Real power doesn't come from proving yourself, it comes from knowing yourself. When you are whole within, when your validation is not outsourced to likes, comments, or people's changing moods, competition becomes irrelevant. Because what you possess can't be copied, can't be compared, and definitely can't be threatened. Think about it. When you walk into a room knowing who you are, you don't need to outshine anyone. Your presence speaks for itself. You're not there to be louder, prettier, smarter, or more successful. You're there to be you, fully, unapologetically. And when someone else shines, you don't feel less. You feel inspired. Because someone else's light doesn't dim yours. A candle doesn't lose its flame by lighting another. That's someone else's. Someone unknown presence. What being complete feels like. You're no longer in the race, you've created your own lane. Remember school days? There was always someone competing for grades, attention, or popularity. Maybe you were that person once. But if you ever stopped and asked, why am I trying so hard to win a game I didn't even sign up for? That was your soul waking up. You're not here to live someone else's timeline. You're here to define your own success. Because when you're complete, you stop counting trophies and start counting impact. At work, it's easy to fall into comparison traps. Who's getting promoted faster? Who's getting praised more? Who's earning more applause? But if your confidence is rooted in your title, your paycheck, or your job role, it will collapse the moment those things change. The complete person doesn't measure their worth by the corner office. They measure it by how they lead, how they live, and how they show up. When you're whole, you don't climb over people, you lift them. And guess what? That makes you unforgettable. In relationships too, completeness is a game changer. When you're emotionally whole, you don't need someone to complete you. You want someone to complement you. That means you're not jealous when they succeed. You're not clingy out of fear. You're not constantly trying to prove your worth. Why? Because you know what you bring to the table. And you're not afraid to eat alone if that table doesn't serve respect. A complete woman doesn't chase love. She attracts it through her stillness, her confidence, and her standards. She accomplishes her own purpose and purpose. And let's talk about friendships. We've all met people who constantly compete. One-ups, subtle jabs, fake compliments. But when you're complete, you don't play that game. You don't see your friend's success as your failure. You cheer louder. You celebrate harder. Because you're not living in lack. You're rooted in abundance. You know that what's meant for you will find you, not through competition but through alignment. And don't forget your personal growth journey. In a world that constantly screams, be better, do more, rise faster, it's easy to feel behind. But the truth is, wholeness doesn't come from hustle alone. It comes from stillness. It comes from healing the parts of you that once felt unworthy. It comes from recognizing that your journey can't be compared Because your destination is different. You're not in a race. You're in a revelation. When you're complete, you walk differently. Not because you're arrogant, but because you're anchored. Compliments. But when you're complete, you don't play that game. You don't see your friend's success as your failure. You cheer louder. You celebrate harder. Because you're not living in lack, you're rooted in abundance. You know that what's meant for you will find you. Not through competition, but through alignment. And don't forget your personal growth journey. In a world that constantly screams, be better, do more, rise faster, it's easy to feel behind. But the truth is, wholeness doesn't come from hustle alone. It comes from stillness. It comes from healing the parts of you that once felt unworthy. It comes from recognizing that your journey can't be compared because your destination is different. You're not in a race, you're in a revelation. When you're complete, you walk differently. Not because you're arrogant, but because you're anchored. You're not performing for applause, you're grounded in purpose. You're not triggered by someone else's success. You're focused on your own alignment. And the ones who still try to compete with you, let them. Because you already won the moment you realized you were never in competition to begin with. The real ones don't shout, they show. They don't need loud words, grand entrances, or constant validation. Their energy speaks before their mouth does. Their actions echo louder than any claim ever could. In a world where everyone's screaming, look at me, the real ones are busy building something worth watching. They don't compete for the spotlight, they become the light. Think about that person at work who never brags, never gossips, never seeks applause, but everything they touch turns to gold. They walk into meetings, calm, prepared, focused. They're not the loudest in the room, but everyone listens when they speak. Why? Because consistency builds credibility. Because showing up every day with discipline, excellence, and humility speaks volumes louder than any self-promotion ever could. That's the difference. Real is rooted, fake is frantic. In relationships too, how many times have we heard the sweet talkers, the ones who promise stars but can't even show up when it rains? I'll always be there for you. You're my everything. Words that vanish like smoke. But the real ones, they don't announce their loyalty, they deliver it. They're there at 2 a.m. when your world is falling apart. They remember the little things. They support your dreams even when they don't fully understand them. Their love isn't posted, it's proven. Take friendships for example. The fake ones post your pictures, tag you on stories, shout your name on birthdays, and disappear the moment life gets hard. But the real ones, they'll sit beside you in silence when you're broken. No camera, no captions, just presence. Because real connection isn't made in the spotlight, it's tested in the shadows. You don't need 1,000 friends shouting your name. You need one that shows up without needing to be asked. And look at social media. Scroll for 10 seconds and everyone's flaunting a lifestyle cars they rented, relationships that are falling apart behind the scenes, hustle quotes from people who barely show up for their own responsibilities. It's a loud world of illusions, but the real ones don't waste time curating a perfect image. They're busy becoming what others pretend to be. You may not hear about their success until it's undeniable, because they weren't focused on being seen. They were focused on being solid. Even in personal growth, it's not about screaming, "I've changed," to everyone around you. Real transformation is silent. You stop chasing people. You set boundaries without guilt. You walk away from chaos without needing to announce it. People notice. They say, "You've changed." And you smile because you know you didn't change for them. You changed for you. That's what showing looks like. It's not broadcasted, it's embodied. Remember this. Lions don't roar to prove they're lions. They walk and the jungle knows. You don't need to post every win, prove every move, or defend every decision. Your growth, your love, your loyalty, they'll speak for themselves. And if someone needs to be convinced of your worth, they were never meant to see your value in the first place. The real ones lead with grace, not noise. They move with purpose, not performance. And in a world full of echoes, they remain the original sound. Because when you're real, when you're rooted, when you're powerful, in silence, you don't need to shout. You show, and the world adjusts its volume accordingly. Protect your energy. Authenticity is a full-time job. When you choose to live as your true self in a world obsessed with trends, filters, and facades, it's not a hobby. It's a responsibility, a daily commitment. Because the moment you decide to stop performing, to stop pleasing, to stop pretending, the world will either try to change you or drain you. And that's why protecting your energy isn't selfish. It's essential. Think about your morning. You wake up, and before you even breathe in peace, your phone's already lighting up. Notifications, emails, expectations. Everyone wants a piece of you before you've even given a piece to yourself. That's how fast the world moves. But authenticity doesn't rush. It doesn't check in with trends. It checks in with truth. Before you pour into anyone, you better ask yourself, is my cup even full? Because you can't serve others from a place of depletion. Protect your mornings like sacred ground. Silence isn't laziness, it's power. In conversations too, every day you meet people who want the version of you that makes them comfortable. The quiet one, the agreeable one, the funny one. But the moment you speak your truth, set a boundary, or say no, suddenly you're too much. That's why protecting your energy means understanding this. You are not here to shrink for others. Your authenticity will intimidate those who live in masks. Let them be uncomfortable. That's not your burden to carry. At work, it's even trickier. You're told to be professional, polished, perfect. But real authenticity isn't loud. It's rooted in alignment. It's doing what feels right, even when it's unpopular. It's speaking up in a room full of silence. It's saying this doesn't sit well with me when everyone else is nodding. That takes energy, emotional labor. But you do it because you're not here to blend in. You're here to stand out, not for applause, but for integrity. And that is a full-time job. Let's talk about social media. You post a picture without makeup, someone says you look tired. You speak your mind, someone gets offended. You disappear for a while and people start assuming things. But what they don't see is that protecting your peace sometimes means disconnecting to reconnect. You're not a product, you're a person. And your value isn't measured by engagement, it's measured by alignment. You're not here to impress, you're here to express. That's the kind of authenticity no algorithm can define. Even in relationships, romantic or platonic. Being your real self comes with risks. You may lose people you thought would be forever. But guess what? If your realness scares them away, they were never meant for the journey. You're not hard to love. You're just not built for shallow connections. And that's okay. The real ones will recognize your soul, not your silence. They'll admire your honesty, not mistake it for arrogance. You don't have to water yourself down to be digestible. You are not too much. You are enough, and then some. And then there's the inner battle, the one nobody sees. The pressure to be liked, the urge to conform, the fear of rejection. But you fight through it every day. You choose honesty over comfort, truth over trends, peace over popularity. And in doing so, you build a life that feels good on the inside, not just one that looks good on the outside. That is the power of protecting your energy. That is the burden and the blessing of authenticity. So when you feel drained, it's not because you're weak. It's because authenticity is work. Soul work. It demands that you show up even when it's hard. That you stay grounded even when the world tries to shake you. And that you choose you over and over again, even when no one else does. Let me leave you with this. In a world that's constantly telling you who to be, how to look, how to speak, and how to live, rare is rare. And that rarity, that's your power, not your problem. You weren't born to blend in, you were born to stand out. You were not created to follow the crowd, you were meant to move it. And if that means walking alone for a while, let it be. Because the road to authenticity is often lonely. But it's the only path that leads you back home to yourself. They will try to label you too emotional, too intense, too quiet, too loud, too bold, too soft. Let them. Their opinion is not your identity. One day you'll realize that you never needed their approval. You just needed your own permission to be real. And the moment you give that to yourself, you become unshakable. Because nothing is more powerful than a soul that's no longer performing. You don't need 1 million followers to feel seen. You don't need a perfect life to be proud. You just need one thing: alignment. The courage to wake up every day and say, this is who I am. and I'm done apologizing for it. You weren't put on this earth to impress anyone. You were sent here to impact. And that impact starts when you stop pretending. You think the strongest people are the ones who shout the loudest? No. The strongest people are the ones who walk away without a scene, who cry in silence and still show up like warriors, who speak their truth even when their voice shakes. Real strength isn't in noise, it's in knowing. Knowing who you are, what you bring, and what you'll never again tolerate. That's real. And real doesn't scream. Real radiates. The people who matter, they will never ask you to dim your light to make them comfortable. To stop shrinking. Stop editing yourself just to fit into a frame that was never meant for you. You are not a puzzle piece in someone else's picture. You are the art itself. And guess what? Not everyone will understand it. Not everyone will appreciate it. That's okay. You're not for everyone. And you were never meant to be. Stop letting temporary people make permanent dents in your spirit. Stop chasing those who walk away and start embracing the version of you that never did. You've always been enough. You were just busy proving it to people who weren't even worth the explanation. And when the world gets loud, when doubt starts knocking, remember this: still waters run deep. You don't need to announce your greatness. Just be it. You don't need to argue your worth. Just live it. And you sure as hell don't need to perform to be loved. The right people will find you when you're finally real enough to be found. Because when you are rooted in truth, when your soul is no longer for sale, and when your peace becomes more important than your popularity, you, my friend, become untouchable. And that's when the world starts to notice. Not when you become like them, but when you dare to be you. So be bold, be loud when it matters, be silent when it's sacred. But above all, be real. Because that, in today's world, is the loudest roar of all. As Maya Angelou once said, if you're always trying to be normal, you will never know how amazing you can be. And I'll add this: if you're always trying to be liked, you'll forget how to be loved. So take the mask off, burn the script, walk in your truth, because the world doesn't need another copy. It needs you. The real you. And when you finally step into that version, unapologetically, unfiltered, unafraid, watch how everything shifts. Watch how the fake falls away. Watch how the noise quiets down. And watch how your light starts a fire no one can put out.